Pepe, how are you doing? ¿Cómo está?
Muy bien, muy bien. Thank you very much for your generosity and for your time. You can hear the token of appreciation of the people of Mexico that deeply admires you.
Fantastic.
On behalf of the ALEF, the Science and Art Festival of the National University of Mexico, we deeply welcome you. Yes.
Thank you very much.
And the first question we would like to ask you, it has to do with the theme of this edition of this festival, the brain exploration. As we know, the brain has 100 billion of neurons, and we would like to know, in terms of your personal experience, what would be the ultimate frontier of the brain? Are we capable of an unbounded awareness? And how could this be related with our creativity?
It's good to see you all. I see part of you anyway. And it's okay if I just speak away in English, Pepe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for sure.
You know, it wasn't too long ago that the doctors told us that we only use 5 or 10% of our brain. And we always wondered, what's the other 90 or 95% for? And the answer is yes, we are capable of unbounded consciousness, unbounded awareness, utilizing our full brain. This is the full potential of the human being. And it's all about this thing called consciousness. And consciousness, every human being has consciousness, but not every human being has the same amount. But the good news is the potential for every one of us human beings is unbounded consciousness, infinite amount of consciousness. There is an ocean of consciousness, an unbounded eternal ocean of consciousness within each one of us human beings. As we're sitting in their chairs today, within each of us is an ocean of pure, unbounded consciousness. We've just lost contact with that beautiful ocean, the big treasury within us all. And if we take a technique like transcendental meditation, it opens the door to that ocean, opens the door to that treasury. And every time a human being experiences that ocean, dives within and experiences that, they infuse some and they begin to grow whatever consciousness they had to begin with. They begin to truly expand consciousness. Consciousness has qualities, all positive. So within that ocean, there's unbounded intelligence, unbounded creativity, unbounded happiness, unbounded love, unbounded energy, unbounded peace within us all. And every time we experience that ocean, we unfold more and more of that, grow in that, and the side effect is negativity starts to lift away. Stress, traumatic stress, anxieties, tension, sorrow, depression, hate, fear, all these things start to automatically lift away the more of that vibrant consciousness we unfold. We dive into pure creativity, an unbounded creativity. Common sense would tell us that we would get more creative if we could experience that creativity every day that lives within us. So it feeds the work, feeds the life, and you get more energy for your work, you get more ideas for your work, you get more love that helps the relationships as you work. You get happier in the doing. This is so important. You start enjoying life. It's a very, very beautiful thing.
And how do you catch the big fish? How do you catch these big ideas when you go into that level? Personally, in terms of your creativity.
Ideas are the number one thing. I always say we don't do anything without an idea. And there are trillions and trillions and trillions of ideas waiting for us, coming up like fish. when you look at the ocean, you don't necessarily see all these fish, but if you go inside the ocean, there's thousands and millions of trillions of fish. Same thing with ideas. An idea is a thought, and these ideas, they can be an object. You can see an object in your mind. They can be a sound. They can be moving pictures. They could be a character. You can hear the way they talk. You can see what they look like. You can see the mood of a place because of the ideas that flow. And the more you can expand that ball of consciousness, the deeper you can catch these ideas. And I always say that deeper you can go, the fish are bigger. The ideas are more is in the idea. And how you catch them, we don't know an idea until it enters the conscious mind. And, you know, if you could expand that, you're making the subconscious conscious. Think of the ideas we could catch if we expand that consciousness more and more. You can catch them when they're real big and they have way more information. They're flowing. And so catching the big fish, it depends on how long your line is and what's on the hook. And I say a desire for an idea is like a bait on a hook. So if we just desire ideas and we can expand that consciousness, we make more power to that desire, some ideas will come in that we'll fall in love with. And once we catch one idea, it's more of a bait on the hook, and more, it'll attract more fish. And it's a lot like fishing, catching ideas. And you just have to have patience, focus on desiring these ideas, and they will start swimming in. Not all of them we fall in love with, but once in a while, when we're very lucky, we'll fall in love with an idea. And then once we got that one idea and we focus on that, more will come in and hook to it. And a script can emerge, a painting can emerge, you know, and many, many things, discoveries, inventions, all these things, they're waiting for us.
You have a friend, a neuroscientist, Fred Travis.
Yes.
And he talks about coherence in the brain. Let's talk about how do you get more coherence in the brain?
More coherence, according to Dr. Fred Travis, who's a brain researcher, is the connections, all parts of the brain working together. All parts of the brain working together. They say it's like a conductor steps up to the orchestra and raises up the batons, and all the orchestra pays attention, and they're all ready to work together. And this comes with, you know, this experience of the transcendent, the experience of that ocean within us. The brain gets coherent and powerful. And creativity flows more, intelligence flows more, love flows more, happiness flows more. All these things come with a coherent brain.
And there is less stress, and this approach can be bring to education. We can have consciousness-based education by expanding awareness and maybe less suffering from the kids.
And they say mankind was not made to suffer. We shouldn't be suffering. We should be happy campers, and we should be enjoying life. And, you know, there's so much stress in the world. There's, you know, people suffering from traumatic stress. There's so much depression. There's so much hate. There's so much bitter, selfish anger. There's so much fear. These things in the family of negativity, and they say negativity is just like darkness. And when you analyze it, darkness isn't really anything. It's the absence of something. Same with negativity. Negativity is the absence of that power that comes from within, from the transcendent, from the unmanifest within each one of us. If we could access that, experience that, we can infuse that, grow in that, and automatically, it's like turning up the light. Automatically, darkness goes. Automatically, negativity goes when you ramp up that light of consciousness. It's money in the bank for the human being. Everybody should be diving within, experiencing that, and see suffering walk away, see stress go away. All these things of negativity automatically go. You don't have to even try to make them go. They go automatically. It's so beautiful for the human being.
How does this relates with your creative work, with your movies? How does this silence interacts with your creativity while doing a movie?
It's been my experience, because before I started meditating, I was creative, but I had so many anxieties. I had a melancholy, maybe bordering on sometimes depression. I had a lot of anger for my situations in life. I had a lot of things I was not so self-assured. I was, let's say, weak. And I start, this technique of transcendental meditation. Within the first 2 weeks, the anger left. I always took this anger out on my first wife. And she came to me one day and said, "What's going on?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "This anger, where did it go?" And I didn't even try to get rid of it. I just started treating her better. I thought it was just normal, but I realized that I wasn't having this anger. I started getting happier in the doing of things. I started getting more ideas. I say negativity is the enemy of creativity. Negativity squeezes the tube that the ideas flow through. And when you're really, really, really filled with bitter anger or real depressed or so much stress and tension, you don't feel like working, and you don't get those ideas, and you're sort of miserable. You start transcending every day. Ooh, that tube opens up, the ideas flow through, you feel so much better in your body. The heavy weight of negativity lifting, it gives you a sense of freedom. It serves the work. You get more energy for your work. You get more ideas. Your relationships with the people you're working with improves. You have a way of working that's nicer, and you have a set that feels good for people, so they can really do their work and serve the ideas. So I find it's like super important to get that golden key that opens the door to the treasury within, and I love it.
Let's open the session for questions for the public. So
for sure.
I will ask Uri to do a question.
Hello. Yeah, it's a real pleasure, truly an honor. Well, let's get to the point. And talking about negativity, when there is depression, and like you said, and anger, you have a very interesting, and it's the suffocating rubber clown suit of negativity. How can you create despite that clown that dominates even your stories? And how do you keep your balance so that rubber clown doesn't enter your dreams and it doesn't haunt you in your daily life?
That's a very good question. I say the artist doesn't have to suffer to show suffering. And that's real important. People say, well, there is a lot of suffering in people suffering in my films, and a lot of negativity in the films, but there's also a lot of positive things too, and a lot of beautiful things. So a lot of stories hold contrast. Stories have been told since the dawn of time. And stories are always going to hold these things. The human condition interacting with characters, it makes a story. But you yourself don't have to suffer to show the suffering. And you can enjoy shooting scenes or writing scenes with a lot of suffering, and because it's part of the story. But you don't have to suffer to show it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Gabi.
Hi, I'm Gabriela. It's very, very nice to meet you. An honor.
Good to meet you, Gabriela.
Thank you. So you have said before in your vocabulary, the first spark of an idea is like a bulb light. How do you connect the dots between the ideas, between the different phosphorescent fishes? I'm thinking about, for instance, the images that put in motion Blue Velvet and some other of your movies.
Okay, so in the cartoons, they show a lot of times when someone gets an idea, they show a light bulb going off. And it's like that, you know, for all of us experience getting ideas, thoughts come, and sometimes the thought is something that catches us and we say, that's a great idea. And so like I was saying, if you have a ball of consciousness this big, you won't know the ideas until it enters the conscious mind. And then the light bulb will go off. And when you get an idea, you see it, you feel it, you hear it, it comes with a lot of information. And, but it might only be, which is my experience, only a fragment of a whole script, say. So, but you love this little fragment. This fragment holds magic for you. You love it like a beautiful little fish. And now that you've caught that idea that you love, you have just to think about that idea and it'll attract others. And the next idea will come and it'll hook onto that first fish. Now you got two fish and something starts emerging. It's like a puzzle. You get one piece of the puzzle and then you get another piece and another piece, and suddenly you see something emerging, and then it kind of go faster. But it's like, I always say, it's like someone in the other room has the puzzle all together and they throw a piece in and you put them together. It's like that. It's like that.
Thank you very much.
El físico Gerardo Herrera, the physicist Gerardo Herrera is going to ask you a question.
Hi, David.
Hello.
You just said that negativity and suffering reduces the power of creativity. I was wondering how you explain Vincent van Gogh with a life of suffering.
Very,
and
very
great
good
creativity.
question. Okay, that's a perfect question. Let's talk about that dear Vincent van Gogh. When he was out painting, he was not suffering. He loved to paint. That's probably the only happiness the guy had. No one was forcing him to go out there. He wasn't going out there to suffer. He was going out there to get some happiness in doing what he loved. Bless his heart. There's a lot of suffering in his life, but he was not suffering when he was painting. He was painting some great, great things. Now, if he had some of that stress and some of that worry and some of that suffering out of him, he might have even been able to do more. It wasn't any of the suffering that caused him to paint so well. It was his brain working and looking at what he saw and getting ideas and painting those things that came out. And a happiness came to him, I'm sure, when he was doing them. So suffering did not bring the good art. And if he wasn't suffering, I'd say he would have brought more.
Thank you, David.
You bet.
Hello, Mr. Lynch. I'm Roberto.
Hello.
I'm a
Roberto.
big fan here. Big fan here. I have to say that. I just want to know. We have all seen your movies, and there's a process of logic is broken in many of the sequences, and it comes from the dreams. It has the logic of dreams, and I want the logic of the unconscious. And I want to know, how do you work to incorporate this logic into the narrative of something that it's conscious, like the artistic process of telling a movie, telling a story?
It comes with the idea. It's not like I set out to say, how can I incorporate dream logic into this story? I don't think about that. I get ideas, and some of these ideas, you know, because we're human beings, a lot of what goes on during the day is abstract. You know, this thinking and feeling together, we intuit things, we feel things that don't necessarily meet the eye. And these abstract things, cinema can say. The language of cinema can say concrete things and it can say abstract things. But it just happens that those are the kind of ideas I love. And I've been lucky for me to catch ideas like this that I love. And then I just follow the idea. I stay true to the idea.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Well, hi.
Hello.
I'm Paulina. So I'm a big fan of Twin Peaks. So I was thinking, how do you connect your ideas with other people like Mark Frost to create something like Twin Peaks?
When Mark Frost and I are writing together, we're just like this. Like you're Mark Frost and I'm David Lynch, and we're on Skype or on, you know, what is this? We're on Zoom. So we talk. And as we talk, we're in the world of Twin Peaks and ideas start flowing and we speak the ideas and then write them down. It's the same as if you're by yourself. You're both sinking into a world and tuning into a world and those ideas start flowing. It's like going down and seeing not just one fish, but a whole school of fish. And there they are. And you start writing them down as fast as you can.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Hello, David Lynch. Thank you very much for this conversation. I am Jesus Ramirez, a clinical neuropsychiatrist. And I think that your work has shown us the many layers connecting the spirituality and the pain of the world. Can you tell us why it is important to show these many layers of the pain of the world?
Well, again, it's ideas that I fall in love with. I don't, you know, I guess the stories hold, like I said, a lot of suffering. But I really believe that there is a way out of suffering, and a way, not only a way out of suffering for me and each one of us individually, but there's a way for peace on earth by enlivening that field, that unified field. They call it, the quantum physics calls it the unified field, the transcendent. They call it the kingdom of heaven, which lies within. They call it the self with a capital S, know thyself. Many names for this field within each one of us. And when you practice transcendental meditation, the mantra takes you through many layers, deeper levels of mind, deeper levels of intellect, and at the border of intellect, you transcend, you experience that ocean. The world is made up of many, many, many dimensions, the field of relativity, many different dimensions. That's all fine and good. We want the thing underlying the field of relativity, non-relative absolute. That's our big friend. We want to visit that place, experience that, infuse that, and grow in that, and thereby unfold our full potential as human beings, which is a very spiritual thing. And it's physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual all at once. It's so beautiful, and it's there for every human being.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Lynch. Nice to meet
Hello.
you. My name is Cami Garcia. I'm a filmmaker from Mexico. And my question is, have you ever come across a new narrative structure in the editing room in any of your films? And how do you deal with this feeling of deconstruction of your initial structure and manage to be able to see it with a new pair of eyes? In other words, do you think it's possible to catch the big fish in the editing room? Thank you.
This is a very interesting and good question. I say a thing is not finished until it's finished. And along the way of making a film, because it takes a long time, the idea is driving the boat. And as you go along, you try to stay true to the idea and get every element to feel correct. But you're always watching, always feeling, and lo and behold, one time you could get an idea conjured by what you're doing, working on, that is a new idea that's, you wonder how come you hadn't, this is like so important to this film. You could get an idea along the way. And so every process has the potential of giving more if you stay on guard. And in the editing room, as you're putting stuff together, you could say, oh my goodness, something is happening here. If I move this thing here and I bring this up around here and I make this thing here, I change a few things here, I got another whole giant thing going. Yes, it's possible.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Lynch. I'm Lucy. I'm a huge fan of your work. And, well, my question is kind of a two thing. It's speaking about creativity, how would you say that the environment that the individual is in plays a role into catching the big fish? For example, in your book, page 32, you speak so beautifully about Los Angeles, and I get that because I love the city of angels myself too. So how would you say that LA helped you catching your big fishes?
That's a good question. I think our environment plays a big role in that our environment should be one that we like, that we feel good in. And the better we feel, the more those ideas are going to flow and the better we'll feel about working. So the environment plays a role, but it doesn't play as big a role as that ocean within us all. As you're sitting there or you're standing, there's this ocean inside that's our biggest friend. And you just have to go visit that friend, twice a day, and you'll be amazed how good you feel no matter where you are.
Thank you.
That when you're talking about it, this brings also intuition and brings also friendship with persons that you never met. When you met Fellini, you had that kind of connection. How does that happen?
I think, well, naturally, I would want to be friends with Fellini. He's a really special human being, but every human being is special. And the more of this consciousness you have, the more of that happiness you have and that love, you dive into universal love every day. So everybody starts looking more and more like a friend than an enemy. And the world looks better. The world looks friendlier and better, more cheerful. And so everybody looks, and another thing, the strange thing happens, you meet people and you feel like you've met them before, but you haven't met them before. But everybody starts looking somewhat, not everybody maybe, but sort of familiar. It's a beautiful thing for us human beings. And a time can come when you could travel anywhere in the world and meet a friend, not an enemy. And that's what we need in this world. And that's what I'm, trying to, help, along with a lot of others, work toward.
And that's what happened with you when you met Fellini at the hospital and he felt you.
You want me to tell you that story?
Yes.
Okay. I was making a commercial in Rome, Italy, and I was working with a DP called Tonino Delacoli, who I'd met before with Fellini. And I heard that Fellini was ill in a hospital in the north of Italy, and he was going to be moved very soon, that next day, to Rome. And I asked the people there who had worked with Fellini, do you think I could go say hello? And they said, well, David, I don't see why not. So a thing was organized. To make a long story short, on Friday evening in the summer, it was, say, maybe 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the evening, beautiful, warm, sun low in the sky, but beautiful, warm light and a warm temperature. We arrive at this Italian hospital with many, many people out front. Then we went through the people and we went deep within. Fellini's niece was taking us in, me and Tonino, and we went deeper into the hospital, fewer and fewer people, went down a long hallway with no one was there. And Francesca, his niece, said, I'll go in and see if he can see you now. So she went in and came back out and said, Fellini will see you. So Tonino and I went in, and Fellini was sitting in a wheelchair, sort of like chair, between two single beds and a little table in front of him. And a man named Vincenzo was standing over here. And Vincenzo was a journalist, and I met him several times since then. Tonino went to talk to Vincenzo, and I sat down opposite Fellini, and he took my hand and held my hand. For a half hour, we talked. It was so beautiful. And as such an honor to be able to, sit with him. And after the half hour, time was up, and I said, Mr. Fellini, the whole world is waiting for your next film, and said goodbye. And I left. And shortly thereafter, I went back to Paris, and that was on a Friday night that I saw Fellini. On Sunday, I heard on the television that he went into a coma, and he never came out of that, and he died. So I felt doubly fortunate to have seen him, had the chance to see him, when I did. But it was a beautiful meeting.
This means to touch each other. That's the importance of being open to the silence that is in the
touch
other.
Each other, not necessarily always physically, but touch with the heart for sure.
Thank you very much. One last question, because David Lynch told us it would be a half-an-hour session, so this will be the last question.
Hello, David. My name is Mauricio.
Hello.
Taking on this, my question was, what are your thoughts on consciousness beyond life and death? And how does that relate to your work and inspire your daily life and creativity? And also, how did it inspire Twin Peaks?
They say consciousness is a continuum. And so in a big way, none of us ever die. The physical body dies, but the consciousness, the sense of I-ness, doesn't ever die. And I believe that we human beings are on what they call the wheel of birth and death. And we go around and around and around. In other words, we've had many, many lives. And this is one of many. And we go around and around until we gain what they call enlightenment. And we realize that we are totality. Then you don't have to get born and die. You're immortal, and you've got supreme enlightenment, and you realize you are totality. And then you can truly say, I am that, thou art that, all this is that I am. And it's a beautiful thing in our future, all of our futures.
Thank you very much. And with this, we finish this beautiful session. We really and deeply appreciate your thinking, your way of trying to touch us, even though there is so much distance within us. There is also this connection thanks to your creativity and to your generosity. Thank you
very much, Pepe. And I wish all of you all the very best. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bueno, creo que fue muy emocionante. Disculpen que no pudiéramos tener todas las preguntas que hubiéramos querido tener, pero fue muy generoso con su tiempo. Déjenme decirles que David Lynch originalmente nos había planteado 15 minutos nada más y lo expandió incluso más de media hora, porque sí estoy consciente del tiempo. Pero creo que lo que nos llevamos el día de hoy fue algo muy interesante. Hemos estado observando, explorando lo que quiere decir el cerebro desde diferentes perspectivas, pero una de las más importantes es la que nos dice nuestra propia experiencia subjetiva, nuestra propia conciencia, y la pregunta es ¿hasta dónde pueden llegar los límites de la experiencia consciente? Yuval Harari, uno de los grandes ensayistas de nuestro tiempo, planteaba que no conocemos todavía las posibilidades que tiene nuestra conciencia, que conocemos las partes degradadas de la conciencia, es decir, cuando se daña algo en el cerebro, eso es lo que conocemos y lo hemos estudiado muy bien, pero que uno de los retos del estudio de la neurociencia del siglo XXI será también ver qué es lo que pasa en cerebros más creativos, en cerebros que pueden interconectar las diferentes partes de nuestra fisiología en una manera más coherente. Y entonces asomarnos a ello a través de la experiencia de David Lynch, que lo ha demostrado andando en su creatividad. La verdad creo que es un privilegio y la verdad agradecemos mucho la presencia de ustedes aquí en este Festival de Ciencia y Arte de la LEF. Muchísimas gracias.